Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 55th and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest way cooler and way more interesting than myself. And today I have a guest from Harmonix. Derek, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
Good. I'm glad you said yes. I know it was very short notice, so I'm always happy when people help me out because I didn't plan my week out correctly.
Who does?
That's true. I've been so busy lately. Time flies, and I'm not used to that yet. So, Derek, I know who you are. We've known each other for quite some time. But for people who might not know who you are, can you give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm Derek. I work at Harmonix as a community manager. We're the studio who did like Rock Band, Dance Central, currently all that.
Cool. And how I'm always interested in how people got to be where they are, but I think that's the whole story. So we're going to take that step by step. Harmonix, I've played most of the games, Rock Band and all that jazz. Why Harmonix? Was that something because you were a fan of the games, or how did you end up at Harmonix?
Yeah, it was pretty much that. Jumping slightly to the end, it was my first choice in the industry, like this exact job. And the way there was literally just liking Rock Band a lot back when I was a kid, because I'm still very young. And so I just was in those circles a bunch, and I talked to everyone who came through. And then eventually I was old enough to make a play at it, and I did, and it worked out.
Cool. But we're going to dig into that because you're not going to say I made a play. I need to know what the play was, and
oh boy,
and all that, because otherwise this podcast is going to be 12 minutes long, and I'm not going to let you off the hook. But did we meet at PAX or did we not meet at PAX last year?
We did meet at PAX, yes. Not this year. I didn't show up this year.
No, neither was I. So I was like, I remember talking to all these Harmonix guys. But yeah, no, we did meet. That's good to know. Shame on me for not like immediately talking like that. But you meet like 15,000 people at PAX. So.
Yeah, you sure do.
Yeah. So yeah, well, you were just a tiny baby. You said that wanted to work in the game industry, and you made a move. Like, what was the move?
Oh boy. Okay, so if we jump back to after high school, I had like several retail jobs, as everyone did, and after a few years of that, it just had broken me inside. So like February 2016, I quit my job with nothing lined up. And that was a time. Yeah. And my friends like all got back from school that summer, that like May, June. And they straight up said, "Are you ever going to work again?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe it'd be cool to go work at Harmonix, but they don't really have any openings." 3 weeks later, a community manager there was like, "This is my last week. I'm out." And I was like, "Oh, dang. Yeah. Okay." So what I did at that point is I texted my good friend Josh Harrison, who worked there at the time. And I texted him one day and I was like, "Hey, I'm in this lot and I'm either going to buy this car or I'm going to use the money to move out there because you're going to offer me a job." Yeah. And he responded pretty quickly and he was like, "Give me the weekend and I'll see what I can do." And so that next week rolled around and he got back to me and he was like, "Yeah, I got approval for it. So can you show up after PAX Prime?" I was like, "Hey, that's a week and a half from now, but I'm sure I could."
Yeah.
And yeah, so I used the rest of my unemployed savings getting out here to Boston from Minnesota, which is a real fun 30-hour drive.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me get straight. So you happen to know someone at Harmonix, which is great because, you all need that foot in the door. And it was like, you were like, "Give me a job," which is a total power move, and I appreciate that. And then you just packed your life in the car, drove across the country, and now you're there?
Yeah. And I've been here for like coming up on 3 years, actually, like September-ish. Yeah, that's PAX Prime season. Yeah. So it worked out.
Man. Did you, like, I love that because like I always I moved from the Netherlands to Canada. I moved for love, and then I had to do everything after. But to just toss everything in a car and drive. What did your friends' family say? Did they think you were crazy, or did they just have your back on that?
That weekend while I was waiting was a good time because
To tell mom.
it was exactly that. And she was like, "Well, you don't want to necessarily get your hopes up." And I was like, "I made the job for me. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like I applied to a thing that many people apply to.
Yeah.
I kind of was just like, this is mine now." And then 5 days later or whatever, when they were like, "Yeah, you can work here," I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, bye. I packed last night."
That is amazing. That is so cool. Why Harmonix though? Like, was it because you said it's your first choice? I think a lot of people, especially at your age, because I'm gonna pretend you're like super old now, which I am. They would take anything that comes along, but you not just like got that job in this spectacular fashion. It's also the company you wanted to be at. Like, that must feel great.
Yeah. Oh, it was very nice. It was like years and years of like my teenage years, watching like Aaron Trites and Pope and John Drake and all those marketing publishing people, and they were like super cool. So like I talked to them, and so I kept up with the company, and as everyone went in and out, and so that's kind of what really entrenched it as my first choice.
I loved it. I love this story. Like, I knew I had to have you on the show, but I did not know that you're such a power player.
I'm sure it'll never happen again the rest of my life.
Hey, you never know, man. Like, sometimes you can recapture lightning in a bottle. But so how does I want to hear all about this? So you show up, you drive for 30 hours. What does your first day feel like? Because it's not just, okay, I can start my job. Like, you need a place to live. I'm assuming you had friends or there, because unless you also like power moved yourself into an apartment. Like how do you move your entire life in such short notice and then walk into the office saying, "Hi, I'm here"? Like, tell me all about this.
Well, the first benefit, I was living with my parents at the time, so I could leave stuff behind.
Yeah.
Super useful.
Yeah.
Pretty much mandatory to pull this off.
Yeah.
And then I did have a couple friends out here, and I'd been watching them like all summer because it showed up that spring. And all summer they were trying to move out of one of their friends' places that they were crashing and get their own. So when I got this news, I basically did it again. I messaged them and I was like, "Hey, I'm going to live with you guys, which will solve your problem and my problem of trying to find a place to live in the span of a week."
That is nuts, man. Do you think, like, sometimes everything just happens for a reason? Are you one of those people where you're like, okay, this was just the right time, right moment? I don't, like, I believe in luck a little bit, but also most of the time it's just like, it happens because you put the effort in, and then, and like, I don't know, I cannot explain how some of these things happen, but this sounds like perfect opportunity, or did you put that in the universe yourself? Like,
Well, it was like 80 different factors that had to align, and I will acknowledge all of them. Like, there were so many. If they said show up here and start 10 days from now, I was like, I don't have anywhere to live. That probably would have been rough.
Yeah, but I still can't get over how everything worked out for you like that.
Very convenient. Didn't want to work another retail job.
No, but that's a whole other story right there, right? Because you work retail, you come out of school. Did you have any background in community management? Because it's such a relatively new job. I'm sure it's been around forever, but the way we see it now, it's relatively new.
Yeah, it's interesting because even other industries haven't super picked up on it the way games has. Like, a few other forms of media are kind of dabbling in it, but mostly in like marketing is just dry marketing. There's no community management aspect of it.
Well, I guess if you've worked retail, that is in a way a good school.
Yeah, it's people experience.
Yeah. So that worked out for you. There's going to be like 10,000 people listening. I wish that are listening like now, and they're pissed off because they want this job too, and they have not had the opportunity to do so. So you are now number one on their most wanted list.
Oh yes, there's 10 million ways to get into the industry, and I maybe landed on one of the easier ones.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing, right? Because sometimes people ask for tips and tricks, like, how do I get to work in the game industry? There's no one out there who can replicate what you did to get where you are. Same as where people can replicate my weird, convoluted way to get where I am. But would you still have like you just made the move, but if you would recommend someone, hey, I also want to get my dream job, like in your case, it's a lot of sacrifice too, because you give up your whole life to drive across the country to do this one thing. But what kind of advice would you put out there in the world for people who really want to follow their dreams like that?
It would. Mine was an extreme version of it, but it's still very important to get to know people. The timing worked out for me because a few years prior, I had ended a long distance relationship with a Canadian. So I got to like funnel all that travel money into like event traveling instead, which helped. And like, people are cool. You don't talk to anyone for the purpose of getting something, but if you just talk to people like people, then you end up being friends with them and you like them. So it works out anyway. It's the same thing from a less malicious place, basically.
Yeah. No, it helps when you're just a genuinely good person. And that's why I like you so much, because, like I said, we've been communicating for quite some time. And I think we align on most of our core values. And it always helps when those core values are like good.
Yep.
And that's probably why we're both happen to be in a good place where we want to be in our career. But I still want to talk about your first day. So you must be like, did you have some time to get acclimatized? Is that the word? Acclimatized? I don't know. English is my third language. Or did you like drive over the weekend and start on Monday? Like, how did that go?
I did. I showed up early. I think it was exactly a week. I showed up on a Monday. I started the next Monday. PAX was that Thursday to Sunday. PAX Prime is 4 days. Yeah. Anyway, so I kind of got situated. I didn't actually like go to the office or see anyone because they were doing PAX plans and travels and execution.
Yeah.
But I did have some downtime to like take a breath before I started.
Yeah. When you walked into the Harmonix building for the first time, how did that feel?
It was super cool. Yeah. I went up the elevator with somebody who recognized me, and this is backwards, but awesome.
Yeah. Okay, how did that happen? Who was that person?
Who was that person? It was Dawn Rivers, yes. And I had met her several PAXs prior. 2014 was my first PAX. No, 2015. And then it was 16. I've only ever done East. I've never gone out west for PAX Prime or anything.
Yeah.
But I'd met her at the Harmonix party, one of them, and she was like, "Oh, hey, you're familiar." And I was like, "Yeah, hey, I'm here now."
It's so funny. And it was like, "Okay, here's your desk. Now go manage this community." Because I don't think a lot of people understand what community management really is. So can you explain a little bit what your day-to-day work is like? And especially, let's rewind a little bit. Like, what was your first day like when you have to get used to, like, it's your job now? Because it's one thing to be part of a community, to know a community and like be a community superstar, how I call them, where you put the best of yourself in a community for no pay whatsoever. But now it's your job. So how did you make that switch?
Surprisingly slowly, since it was in September 2016 and Rock Band had that expansion coming out in October 2016. It was in like that exact ramp up. And so I had to do it fast, but that's how I got in the door, was being like, I already know a bunch of this info of the thing you want to sell. Yeah. So it'll be super easy to add me to the team from that perspective. And they were like, yes, of course.
Of course.
Which is good, because I needed all that time to learn the difference between, like being a community member and being a community manager, because there's things you can't say and things you have to do and all that. And that's a good chunk of my job. Is I have to do a lot of writing, but also once that writing's out in the world, I have to guide the conversation around it, and also act as the vote at the table for what the actual players want to see in things, and make sure like product managers and the other devs and seniors all like know how people feel about what they're doing.
Yeah, because it's a big deal, right? You are the firewall or the shield in the dark, or whatever Game of Thrones calls it. Because Harmonix is, I assume, a pretty good community. I'm not sure if this is pure based on assumption, but it always feels like a good vibes kind of games that they have.
Yeah.
How hard
Yeah.
is that to dive in and become that voice? Because all of a sudden you have the keys to the city, but you also have to deal with all that feedback, and sometimes it's hard to get feedback, even though it's not personal, especially if it comes from a million people at the same time. How did you deal with that?
It's quite the learning experience that I'm still going through, where you have to learn not to take everything personally.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always try and remember is what Aaron Trite said for like years and years and years, both on his own and like talking me through things, where people are only angry because they care.
Yeah.
And we do make like party-based casual things, but they also have competitive tilts going on in them, and that's who you see online is the hardcore audience for any product, really, because that's what makes them hardcore.
Yeah.
So weighing them and seeing how because they usually are in contrast with your broader audience, so you got to aim for that overlap.
Yeah. I saw a tweet, I think it was from Pope, the other day, where one of they were going through like feedback emails, and their favorite one was like, your game looks like ass and it plays like asshole, and I think he framed that or something, but that's the side people tend to talk about, like the assholes or whatever in the community, and you learn to deal that, get your skin thickened out, but there is also a lot of like appreciation and love, and especially for your games. How good does it feel to put something new in the world and then see how people receive it?
Oh, there's no better feeling than when you put something out and you just metaphorically see faces light up as people are like, oh, this is super cool. Oh, this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
It is real good.
Yeah. It's it must be, especially for someone like you who has been following this company for some time and get to call yourself a part of it. Have you seen yourself in the credits, or do they not put community manager in the credit? Not to throw anyone under the bus there, but
no, actually, marketing is basically a free pass to be in the credits always, which is amazing.
Yeah. How did it feel when you saw your name scroll up for the first time?
It was pretty cool. Yeah, I was like, oh, I grew up on this series, and now my name's sitting in this one. Yeah. It's a nice capstone feeling.
Yeah, it's a bucket list item for me. Before I was 40, but I know, man. I work external now, so I do a lot of community management, social, and all that for a whole bunch of games. Yeah. But I'm not sure I'm gonna make it because it's all under the flag of the company. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe I can put a good word in for myself someday.
Yeah, finagle your way into the right one.
Exactly. I love that word. So you talked a little bit about like who helped you, like with this job and the people you looked up to, but who are some of these people, those role models? That it doesn't have to be for Harmonix. I mean, there's a lot of people who make names for themselves, and I guess there might be some other hustlers that you took a few notes from. Who are the pillars in your career here?
I'll give one mention to Dan Emmerich over at Ubisoft San Francisco. I've been watching like his parallel actions for a few years because he was on the Rocksmith team. Yeah. And the way he handles people, because game fans are passionate and music fans are passionate, and when they overlap, there's a lot of passion. Yeah. So you got to manage. It's like, because your content is both something you don't own because it's music someone else created, and it comes with its own baggage compared to like other DLC expansions. Yeah. So it's a fun, like the regular flow is something super unique and the licensed content is really unique. So it's overall, it's hard to find more direct parallels, even in the game industry. It's getting a little more common, but
yeah, that's good. I know that name. I don't think we ever met, but that's pretty sweet. And now all your coworkers are, of course, the best helping out. I think I know a couple of you guys actually. I can't wait. Are you going to E3 or are you going to be around? Or
I'm not going to E3. There's a world where I go on my own to see if Nintendo does an Animal Crossing thing, because that'd be super awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll need to wait for another PAX to hang out again.
Yes, I will probably show up at next East. The break was nice, and I have no qualms about going to more.
Yeah, no, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it
Yeah, yeah.
out. Super sidetracked there. But so you've wanted to this job for a while. Now you've got it. Do you ever have those moments where you're like, wow, I can't believe I pulled this off?
Yeah, it's because part of it does soak in as like it becomes a day job, regardless of how cool it is from the outside.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you get that kind of not out of body experience, but you get that sort of self reflection where something happens at work and you're like, huh, this probably wouldn't happen in like a normal office job or a different industry kind of thing.
Yeah. I have that all the time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I have never had a meeting in my life where we talked about this kind of stuff.
Right, right.
But I don't. That's fun. I always like it when people are in the place where they really either belong or wanted to be, or where they put a lot of effort in, or just like call the dude saying, "Hey, can you give me a job?" That works. That works too. But so now you're here. Do you think you would blow your own mind if you could like tell your 14-year-old self where you are today?
Oh yeah, it'd be crazy because all I did was play a video game a bunch, and that panned out for me, which is very nice because I kept putting off college. So.
Yeah. And do you feel a little bit like to your parents when they say, when you remember they saying like, you're never gonna get a job playing video games all day?
Yeah, no, I managed to fulfill that, and I've like friends' parents who are like, I try to say that to our nieces and nephews, and I can't anymore. Thanks a lot. And I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, I have to say with my nephews, they're like, oh, I want to be a Fortnite player. I was like, there's a lot of kids that want to be Fortnite players, but we'll see. But then they see Ninja and they're like, yeah, that's what I want to be. Good luck, kids. Yeah. Good luck. But. So you did everything. You are in a good place now, but what I always find interesting, because you like you said, you drove for 30 hours, you left pretty much everything behind to get this one thing, the job. Now you're there. What I dealt with when I moved from Netherlands to Canada, in my case it was for now my wife, is that feeling of, okay, if this works out, that's great for me, but then I'm going to pretty much permanently leave everything behind.
Yeah.
Do you ever struggle with that, when even driving there saying, okay, this is my one shot. If it works, that means I'm probably never going to go back. Like, how do you deal with that? Because it's quite a big deal, I think, for people, especially when you're just by yourself making those steps. Or are you by now completely over it?
Yeah, it's been pretty okay. I don't plan my life very far ahead. I just kind of go with whatever happens. Mm-hmm. So when I got the offer, it was like a contract thing, and they're like, we can only guarantee this through the end of the year. Mm-hmm. You should weigh that against like the effort that would go into coming out here and then going back if that's it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even hesitate. I was like, yeah, I'll still do it because it's the most interesting thing in the immediate future.
Yeah.
So it's the way I view things, it's a little more doable. I'm not amazingly homesick all the time.
No.
But yeah, it's still a lot to really just you do have to accept it regardless of how casually you treat it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easier for the person on the adventure. Because every day is cool, and every success you have is fulfilling. I know that my mom struggled with it a lot because I also left from the motherly house to the other side of the world in my case. But like you said, like you can't be homesick all the time, right? Because it would be too crippling to deal with that all the time. Do you go back every now and then, or do you have the opportunity to go back home?
Yeah, I go home every holiday. Since I moved out in September, I didn't go home that holiday.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, are you coming back? I'm like, nah, you just saw me. It's fine.
Get used to it, yeah.
But yeah, every holiday since then.
Yeah, that's good. At least, I guess the world is a little smaller nowadays than it used to be when we still traveled by horse and carriage. Yeah. But still, like, I appreciate it. I really think it's a special group of people who manage to do that, because like it's the good kind of selfish. You know what I mean? It's like you sacrifice a lot for that to fulfill that dream, and then I think it's a special kind of person that managed to do that. So you're one of the people I can connect with on that as well, because it's tough, but good for us, good for making everything work out. So you've done your power moves. You are in a super cool place where you are. What's your next play? Like, I'm not sure if you wanted to do, but this is kind of where I always wonder. Like, you do community management, Harmonix. What are your aspirations? Do you want to do like dev yourself, or what is your you said you don't plan your life in advance that far, but what are your hopes and dreams and pies in the sky that you still have left?
It's I've been thinking about that a lot lately myself, because I'm not super sure currently.
Yeah.
I'm happy where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't aspire to different heights. Like I don't want to lead or be like PR or anything,
mm-hmm.
which I view as next notches up from where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I would move laterally. That'd be fine. If I move up in a company, also fine, but not what I'm necessarily aiming for. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty content. I'd like to see things out in like the wider industry,
mm-hmm.
meet more people, that kind of thing, and just like further entrench myself and then see what catches my interest.
Yeah, I guess you just have to flip a coin every now and then and see where it lands. Do you feel like you're at home here? Would you always do gaming, or do you ever think you're going to go back to any industry? Because there's a lot of transferable skills now. Do you want to like ever consider switching to, like in your case, the music industry, or is games the best thing ever?
Yeah, it's that's something I've thought about too, because I don't have higher education to transfer with, so it is just the skills I get here, because there's not a lot of parallels in other industries for community management, as we brought up earlier. But it's games is preferred, but I'd be open to like other industries.
Yeah, well, we'll see what worlds you can move with another phone call, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out soon enough. So we kind of talked about like where you come from, where you are now, and the future is a big question mark. But what are some things you are excited about in because the industry is constantly moving, right? Even the models are moving, the consoles, the tech is moving. What are some of the things that excites you still? Because from the switch from player to being like on the inside also makes everything very normal, I think. So what are the things that still excite you about everything, all the possibilities that are coming our way?
Honestly, I don't hear as much as you might expect if you're on the outside of the industry. I don't hear as much about other people's projects. Like I have friends, and I hear more than the outside by way of needing it for work. But there's still a bunch of stuff out there that I'm just as eager about as anyone else. Like, again, going back to Animal Crossing, super great. I know exactly as much as everyone else about that. So I guess.
So there's no Harmonix Animal Crossing crossover confirmed here.
No, I would not be able to keep that secret.
No, we found the leaker when it shows eventually. Why Animal Crossing? I'm just going to dig in here a little bit, because I never played Animal Crossing. Can you sell me Animal Crossing in 5 minutes?
Oh boy, maybe not, because it's the world's most boring game ever made.
Okay, not sold yet.
Right? Yeah, because it is just existing in real time, and you talk to little chibi head animals, and that's it. That's the full thing. You just exist. But what gives me such a strong connection? One, I like it a lot, and I put a bunch of time into it. But two, it's also that Canadian that I was dating several years ago. We actually met when we were 12 years old through an Animal Crossing forum, which is super weird and not something you hear amazingly often.
Hey, man, my wife's Canadian, and I met her when we were 16 on a teenage chat box. So we're not that far off.
Yeah, just a few technological shifts in our little. Yeah, just. And so, yeah, little 12, 13-year-old formative years, me tapping away at a Nintendo DS for these like 18 character wide text bubbles in Animal Crossing Wild World.
That is awesome. I think that's like you said, it didn't really work out, but that would have been a cool story for your wedding. That's all I'm saying.
Totally would have been.
But I'm still not sold. You did not sell me on.
No, right? I drifted from the actual game. It's so hard. It's like Harvest Moon from the outside, where somebody describes it. That in Stardew Valley, it's like, what do you do in it? And they're like, oh, you just grow crops and milk cows. And you're like, wow, that's riveting. And you do that for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you would not have sold me on Stardew Valley that way, and I've played like 150 hours of Stardew Valley.
Exactly. But it's so nice, and it's peaceful, and you have like the schedule aspect to it, and there's no tricks involved. There's nothing malicious in the game. It's just pleasant wall to wall, which is a very nice thing to have as you get older and as time goes on.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it. Sometimes I forget I own a Switch. So when I see like huge Switch titles, I'm like, oh, that's fun, but not for me. Oh, wait a minute. I almost forgot that I could buy Smash now because I have a Switch. I don't play it much, but I should. All I play now is Dragon's Dogma on the Switch, because Dragon's Dogma is the best game in the world.
I almost kept my Amazon order for it, but then I canceled it because I was like, I have 4 other games that are still sealed that I should get around to.
You cut me deep there, Derek.
I tried.
I know. But the only thing I know about Animal Crossing, and this is a bit of a sad story, is some meme. It's not really a meme. It's a story I saw one day about this kid that used to play with his mom, and like she would send him gifts. Then the mom got sick, passed away, and he already stopped playing at that point. And then he logged in like years later, and he could see like endless gifts that she would have sent him every day. And then he fixed her house. It was very cute. That's the only thing I know about Animal Crossing. But maybe I should let my old man self get in on this generation and enjoy it. I don't know. I still you're gonna have to sell me a little hard on that next time. When it's coming out? Has it even been announced officially?
Yeah, they announced it back in with one of their Smash Bros things. Was it like December or something? No, because the game came out in December, so it would have been like October.
Yeah,
it's still slated for this year. We've seen nothing about it. We haven't even seen like the final name, but fingers crossed for E3.
Well, you never know at Nintendo, because they also like announced Metroid 4, and then just were like, nope.
Yeah, which on one hand, very nice, because if they didn't like it, like they have objectively, they have a pretty good eye for what makes a quality game. I don't like all their games, but they make them exactly how they want to.
Yeah. Well, that's we'll see. I don't know. I haven't really enjoyed a lot of Nintendo stuff recently. I don't know why. I enjoyed Mario 3D World. I didn't enjoy Odyssey at all. I don't know, man. Nintendo surprised me. Like, bring me back to the pack, because I have the system now. I might want to spend $70 to play a game. I'm in Canada. It's like $1,200 Canadian.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. But you know, what if Animal Crossing calls you and said, "Hey, Derek, look, I'm gonna give you one phone call. We need a community manager. Get into your car, drive 30 hours, and make work." Is that a thing? Is that the next step up in Nintendo for you, or do you not have those kind of ambitions?
Everyone's thought about Nintendo at a point or another, regardless of what their current or past jobs were, because it sounds like a beautiful, amazing place.
Yeah, I would work for Nintendo just so I could say that I'm the uncle that works at Nintendo, the mysterious uncle that the kids used to have.
Yeah, but it's Nintendo doesn't seem to really do community management as much. They're kind of, I've been watching them loosen up on a few things. The Pokemon account is weirdly hello there fellow kids currently, but
well, they used to have Kate Bryant there, and she's with Blizzard now. I don't know who does their stuff now. We'll see.
Yeah, it's like a secretive company, so I don't.
Nintendo, maybe you should look into hiring Evolve PR, because we're awesome. Just putting it out there into the world. Nintendo, give me a call. Or give Tom a call. Anyway, but that's cool. Like I said before, I always get a kick out of people just following their passions and being in the right place at the right time. your case is very specific, and I'm going to be thinking about that one more time. Like the power of one phone call. Props to your friend that just created a job for you. By the way,
right? Delightful.
Did you buy him a beer, or how did that go?
No, I've been aging some wine, and I don't wait.
Okay, well that's good. It better be one hell of a bottle. So I was like Harmonix, cool studio. I always like to ask a question like, you're out there in the world now. What did you put in the world that you think made the whole thing just slightly remotely better? It doesn't even have to be like job related, but I always find it interesting. People like you, like how do you've not luck, but like you've had some opportunities. What are you doing to make the world a better place?
That's an interesting one that gets into something that I'm going to have a lot of fun saying. Since I spent my teenage years in that community, it was also angsty teenage years. Yeah. And let's say I'm paying forward the chances and assistance that people gave me back then. Mm-hmm. Where it's like you can crack into someone and be like, hey, what's actually going on? Mm-hmm. You're pretty saucy about a video game on the internet. Mm-hmm. Everything's square in your life. Yeah. And so there's like conscious attempts to pick out the real cream of the crop and talk to them as normal people, like outside of the job kind of circle where you talk about what they want out of a video game and just kind of reach them that way.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that, though? If you don't mind sharing, because that is quite the surface that you just casually like throw out there, because you can reach, like you have a lot of people in your reach all of a sudden, right? So how do you recognize those cases?
A lot of it is just in any community, you'll see the same names over and over and over and over again, regardless of the scale of it. Some people will always stand out for quantity or what they say, and then it is just like a message to them on where they talk. Mm-hmm. Just like send them a PM and like, hey, what's up?
Mm-hmm. And what is the did you ever have to deal with something like where you felt like, okay, I am way out of my depth? Because so sometimes people will find that connection to you even, and it feels strong and real to them, even though you have, for you it's just on a worksheet basically. Yeah. Did you ever have to deal with something like that?
So far, not particularly. It's been pretty good about that. Nobody's been particularly extreme, we'll say, and there are some people who the worst of it is they'll message you on like personal accounts in the middle of the night for work things. And then it's just some boundary setting where you're like, hey, you know what's awesome when you get to leave your job and you leave your job.
Yeah.
Because it is cool to talk about a video game on the internet and be paid for it.
Yeah.
But you need different things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Do you feel like... Do you understand that sometimes people look at your name? You get the special callers and whatever, and they're like, "Oh man, this is the guy that works at Harmonix." Especially on forums, it gives you almost like superstar status, right? For some of these people. How do you deal with that? Like, because it's basically it's silly, right? You're just being paid to do this stuff. But I remember when I spent way too much time on forums. When you got like the people that work there, you were like, whoa, that's someone who works there. That's so cool. And they're talking to me as if it's like this big deal. But it is a big deal if you're just a huge fan of the game.
Yeah.
How did that feel in the beginning?
It was very strange to get used to. Since I had been a community member before, like I was fresh off that same like starry-eyed thing.
Yeah.
And so the few times early on where it like hits and you respond to somebody even under like a brand account on Facebook or something, and their response to that actually includes the line, "Oh my God, they actually responded to me," kind of thing, and that still gets like a real good warm fuzzies.
Yeah, Because to them, it almost feels like the game that they love is talking to them, right? Isn't like there's this disconnect between realizing that it's just a person at an office, at a desk,
Right? Yeah.
who's giving feedback, but they're like, whoa, that's the guy that's on the stage with the guitar that's talking to me right now. I specifically when I was a lot on the Bioware forums, Chris Priestley. He was one of the names, with the collars and the thing. And I was like, what that works here? And now I work with him. It's very funny.
And you're just like, oh hey,
yeah, we're just having like casual conversation now. But it's interesting how that works in making that switch. Does it add to the to your enjoy? Are you still like, we know how you feel about Animal Crossing, but is it hard to just relax now and play games? I know personally that I play a lot less games all of a sudden because I'm like in it all day, so I don't need it to relax anymore in a way that I used to. Like I still enjoy it, but it's I don't know how I can explain this. Like I tried to do this on Twitter the other day where when I kind of hated my job, like, when you work in retail or wherever you're not happy, you come home and you find that almost an escapism in games. And now it's a part of your 8 hours a day life. Do you enjoy it the same way, or do you just find different experiences, or how do you deal with that?
Oh yeah, no, it's so much less. Like I jokingly say it, but I very truthfully say it. I've never played like less than when I had a job in the industry, because it's exactly that. Where it's like, what'd you do at work? I spent 8 hours talking about video games and thinking about video games and associating video game spaces. So what do I want to come home and do? Literally anything else.
Yeah. I found that I picked up on that quite quickly. I was like, wow, I like my PlayStation is on right now because I forgot to turn it off 3 days ago, and it hasn't turned off by itself. I'm gonna burn the house down. Anyway, but yeah, it happens. It's very funny for people who think this is the dream job, and they're trying to get in. We talked about it. You can't replicate it, and how important it is to be kind and to talk to people. But how should they manage their expectations, do you think? Because like it's important to know people, but how can you present yourself in a way to be as hireable as you can, like from everything you've learned in the industry, like, and all your coworkers? Like, what do you think is the key there?
Really, it's like any other job. The skill set or some standing out factor. You do a very cool thing for a very cool end result, and it is still a day job.
Yeah.
So you do have to treat it like that. There are expectations. You have guidelines, all that. You can't do whatever you want whenever you want. You can't do everything you want to do, just like every other job you may have had. So it's really, it's one thing to be cool and passionate, but you also have to be very realistic in order to not survive is a little extreme, but to be in the environment, you have to convince other people that like you get it and you won't waste everyone's time on the equivalent of pipe dreams.
Yeah, because once you're there, like you said, like you better show up every day.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. I gotta wake up so early now compared to my retail job.
Yeah, but at least you don't go to bed hating yourself every night.
So true.
There's a big win right there. So we talked a little bit about the future, like of Animal Crossing and yourself, and it's hard, and nobody's going to be like, well, what I'm looking for right now is a new job. But like we're heading into E3, we're heading into a new console cycle. Are you working on anything secret? I know you're not going to say that anyway. But how does it when you are in this, you're always looking for it, like new information, right? New information, especially about things you. Have you gotten used to it that it just shows up in your email now, like industry secrets and stuff?
It's still very fun because, as I said earlier, I don't know as much as you might expect. Means, by the same hand, I want to know a lot more.
Yeah.
So every time something rolls through, I just devour it,
Yeah.
basically.
But have you ever on something that's already out, so you don't have to be super secretive about it, that you were sitting on it and you're like, I cannot believe I cannot talk about this? Have you ever had one of those? Have you had launches? You've had launch because
I've had good few launches at this point. I've had 5 or 6 launches, and they're all super cool. I'm trying to think of what stands out the most. Now I'm all paranoid that I'm going to pick the wrong thing, so it's really jamming me up.
Yeah. No, pick something that's super old, like
right? Yeah,
just in case. Yeah.
Actually, it may even be like just the first regular thing that I got to do, where because I showed up right before a product launch for a huge expansion relaunch kind of thing, and so I just got all that right before it went out, basically, and so I got that quick turnaround of it actually hitting and having everyone react to it and be like, "Oh, this is great and awesome," and I was like, "Haha, I knew that."
I knew that. Yeah. Did you right now? What is the latest thing that you guys put out? Because I can't think of the name. What's the name of the game where you're on the track? It's like a spaceship inside someone's brain.
Amplitude.
I love that game, Amplitude. I'm very bad at it.
That's fine. But it's got difficulty levels.
Like, because that was a remaster.
It was like not quite a reboot. We just took the title again.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was Frequency was the first one, and the sequel was Amplitude, and those were both on PS2. And then there's the PS3, PS4 version that's also called Amplitude.
Yeah, if you have never played Amplitude, you should check out Amplitude. I was playing that online, and I was playing with Andrea Renee, and she destroyed me.
No, I'm sure she has lots of experience in that.
Yeah, she is so good. I hate her. No, I don't. She's the best. But were you part of that? I'm not sure what the timing on that was. I think.
No, that was actually
before you.
Yeah, I backed it on Kickstarter. I did that.
Cool.
I didn't on it.
Conflict of interest. That's
right? Yeah.
Just
I showed up with my own merch. It was very tacky.
Yeah. That is pretty sweet, actually. That's why people recognize you in the elevator.
Yeah.
So that being said, like there's a lot happening for you personally outside of Animal Crossing. Is there anything you're looking forward to this year? Because we are heading towards E3, so I'm gonna add some E3 questions to next couple episodes. Is there anything you want to see? What are your hopes and dreams?
It's more on Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's maybe my favorite franchise of all time, and like regardless of how much I do or don't play the games anymore, it's kind of been trending down lately.
Yeah.
Like as a whole, I still adore Pokemon with all my heart, so I'll take all of it.
Yeah, Sword and Shield, right? That's the one that.
Yeah. Yep.
Was it? Have we seen anything other than logos for that?
We have seen a couple not screenshots, but like super short clips of exploring the world, a couple shots of Pokemon battles, and we've seen the first form of each starter.
Really? And what does it look? I can't remember what it looked like. It's just like a pretty version of still the top-down thing.
It's that weird, like not quite over-the-shoulder camera. It's like knocked up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more the same. Which is
I can't remember what it looks like because I keep seeing Pokemon on the go or whatever, so Pikachu Go, Eevee Go, or whatever.
yeah. It's close to those. I think those cameras are a little high compared to what we've seen from Sword and Shield. That's it.
I might. This might be the first Pokemon game I'm ever gonna play. It would be cool if I could play with my kid. Pokemon is a thing I missed out on completely because when it got popular in Europe or in the Netherlands, I was like 14 years old, and it got super popular like around the 8-year-olds. So I guess in the US, like it took a couple of years for that to shift over. So I was way too cool for Pokemon, and that was just the cards. And I think we even had the show. So I feel it's like this outsider when it comes to Pokemon cards. Even people my age are still like Americans or North Americans at least. Like that was the right time for me. It was right at the wrong time. So that's the one giant franchise in my life that I feel like don't get it. Can't see. Well, I can see it now, but I don't know. I miss. I wish I did not miss the boat on that one. So maybe I'll just pick it up as a 40-year-old man by the time the game's come out.
Yeah, that's
Pokemon Sword
fine.
and Shield. Anything else? Like stronger than Nintendo on this one.
Oh yeah.
Nothing else you're looking forward to?
Well, everyone else is kind of seemingly winding down to wind up for the next console gen.
Yeah.
So and like with the whole not really playing video games anymore thing, it's hard to pin down what I'm like that interested in.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's so many things that I will play either previously released or upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
But I am sort of trying to hold myself to only buying Pokemon and Animal
Yeah,
this.
that's fair enough. What is? I just created this new segment on the spot. What is? Because I get like 2 more episodes after this. Your boldest E3 prediction for 2019.
Sly Cooper 5 as a launch title for the PS5.
Sly Cooper. I'm writing it down. Sly Cooper.
Never gonna happen.
For a launch title for the PS5, is that what you mentioned?
Yeah.
Well, like, good luck with that, because Sony's not going to be there.
Hey, they'll still have news. They just won't be there.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they'll do. Well, they're probably going to do their own state of play, right? That's kind of.
I think so. I don't know if they have it quite scheduled, but yeah, probably.
I bet they don't have to. They can post it on Monday that they're doing it on Wednesday, and everybody's going to show up.
Yeah, exactly. The last one they did Final Fantasy VII. Who knows what?
Nobody saw that one coming except for the people who leaked it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Not even Final Fantasy VII. Are you a Final Fantasy VII fan?
I've played 45 minutes of Final Fantasy 6, 7, and 12.
Okay.
And I've beaten 3 and 4, so I'm not like super into Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you never know. Like
Tough,
that came at the right time in my lifespan, because I was like also the broody teenager, so a lot of memories from that, and nothing from Pokemon, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Cool.
and like my age, my first console was a GameCube, so Final Fantasy was well and gone.
You are just a tiny, tiny baby. my first, was the NES, but before that I had the Commodore 64. I have very good memories from playing video games of a cassette tape, ladies and gentlemen. A cassette tape. Do you know what a cassette tape is? No.
I do know what a cassette tape is.
Well,
I've had a Walkman before, which is very strange.
Wow, a Walkman. I also remember Walkmans. Yeah, it's very funny. I'm just going to go back to the old days now. You could play a video game of a cassette tape, and it's like a tape. And if you put it like in a regular player, it would sound like terrible. It would be like, like a dial-up modem, kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's very strange. History lessons with the hashtagonist. What else can we do? Okay, so I locked it in. This is your big prediction. Sly Cooper 5. If there's going to be a giant Harmonix announcement, I know it. Everybody knows that you're a big fat liar and that you just call it Sly Cooper just for no reason. But that's kind of cool. So it was good to like get to know you a little better, because at PAX you talk over a beer real quick, or everybody's on the run. So I'm glad I got to talk to you and hear this origin story, because I think it's a super cool origin story. Because I've listened to a lot of origin stories by now, but the phone call one is definitely going to be in my top 3. Call a friend, drive across the country, get your dream job. So that's pretty awesome. I always end a little bit on like what I call podcast and shill, where you can promote yourself and anything you like to promote. Doesn't have to be games, doesn't have to be work. Anything nice you want to share with the world. So where can we find you, first of all?
You can find me on just shy of anything as Complicit Owl. I claimed that name on every relevant platform, as far as I am aware.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add 2 more minutes to this podcast and ask you why Complicit Owl?
Oh, that's a fun story too. When I got my 360 specifically for Halo 3, because who didn't? Yeah. People who got it for Gears of War, that too.
Yes.
But so Halo 3 came out a good few years into the console, and so I went for my original name, which was Fuhugu Gods from Homestar Runner. Mm-hmm. If anyone remembers that, it's coming back, sort of. But Xbox was like, hey, that's taken. Here's some generic suggestions for you. And at the time, maybe still today, the way it worked was like the name you wanted, string of numbers, name you wanted, letter X kind of thing. But the very last one was always like adjective noun. And that was just the first one that was sitting there. And I was like, yeah, that's got a nice flow to it.
That is so
And
funny.
so since like 2007, 2008, that's just been like entrenched.
What was that? I had no idea that Xbox did that actually, and that you ran with it.
Yeah,
So funny.
I've had a few friends like try and do it as well, where they'll roll one until it's an animal in the next slot. I'm like, yeah, it's not the same.
No. So now Owl is part of the brand.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about all the usernames you've had in your entire lifetime and how terrible they were?
Actually, I've been pretty good. There's been Compositao, there's been Fukuga, and then there's been one other that I used for like 3 months in one specific spot. That is terrible enough that I won't say it, because I would maybe literally die if it got public.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna list all my stupid ones, but now I'm not gonna, because I used to be Moonbow when I was 16.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah. And here's the thing: people think that's like this fancy thing, but I got it from, I think it was New Horizons 2, Uncharted Waters, New Horizons 2. I talked about this game on the episode with Brittany Johnson, and you could find like all kinds of wonders. Like if you would sail past something at a certain time, you would discover stuff. And this is all in old video game. And one of the discoveries was a moonbow, which is a rainbow that happens at night when there's like a super bright moonlight by waterfall, whatever it is. And I thought that's such a cool name, so I took that as my username for the longest time. And now it sounds stupid. It's a stupid name, but I have a lot of attachment to the name because that's the chat name I used in the teenage chat box that I mentioned earlier, where I met my now wife. So thanks Moonbow, thanks Uncharted Waters, New Horizons 2 for making it happen. I'm pretty sure that's what got her.
It really paints a picture based on their username before you actually share pictures.
Exactly. So we all made it work. So yeah, Complicit Owl on Twitter. I highly recommend following Derek as well, because it's a stream of goodness on your timeline in a sea of negativity. Sometimes I always enjoy your tweets, and you stand out with your Spider Gwen picture as well, because she's the best. I should still draw her at some point.
Should do a year of that.
Oh God, I'm never doing that again. My goodness, I wish I had that vigor again. I should go to the gym for a year. That would do me a lot better than drawing also for you. Maybe we'll see. Anything you want to put in the world? Anything you want to share? Anything you want to promote? Shill for? I call it podcast and shill, so you can go all out.
Oh boy. I'm on the spot now, and that's something.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at it. I don't think I have anything. I don't have my own podcast, so I don't need to step on your toes at all.
No SoundCloud to promote?
No SoundCloud. I haven't gotten into. I'm working my way to be a very poor artist. Maybe someday I'll put it out in the world and I'll say, check that out. Mm-hmm. But we aren't there yet.
Okay, well, maybe just love and compassion. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll shill for that. I'm down with that. Any announced non-secret games coming out of Harmonix that we should keep an eye on?
We just this last week put out Dance Central on Oculus.
But there's a shill for you right there, man. Come on.
Yeah.
The boss is listening.
That's a lame shill. That's a work shill.
That is a work shill. I know. Well, I just asked Nintendo to call Evolve to do their work. So
that's true. You did.
Yeah. There's no shame on this podcast. Well, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again at PAX at some point.
Yes.
I hope I'll make it out there. And nowadays, that all depends on the boss and not on me.
Sure does.
Which is kind of sweet, because I don't have to fly myself there anymore.
Exactly.
But that's
living a mile away from the convention center? Great.
Ooh, that is perfect. Wow. I do envy that a little bit. But, you also have to deal with traffic there. So that is the downside. But Derek, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And like I said, it's fun to get to know you a little better. And for people still listening, you know the drill. I cannot close the show, but I'm going to do it anyway. So thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back again next week with another guest I have not planned yet. So we'll see. Bye-bye.